righty, boys.
Welcome to Tuesday. We'll get into our full intro in a minute, but Sam is here. I'm here. Luds is remote today, and we are excited because less than 24 hours from now, we'll have the first Olympic men's hockey games. The women's game is actually going on right now.
2-0.
USA, Canada. Now, it's preliminaries, so it's not for a medal yet, but anytime the U.S. is beating Canada in hockey, we get excited, don't we?
Put some fear in there.
So let's start the show. Olympics, stars, all that implies right now on DLS. It is Tuesday, is February 10th. This is the DLS Stars podcast alongside Sam Nessler and remotely from Wisconsin, Craig Ludwig. I'm Owen Newkirk. Our producer, Ryan Vaughters, is here as well, although he's not on the screen, and we're thrilled to have you here today. We don't have to pump up the Finnish Mafia hoodie, but I would suggest that you probably grab one because we're going to talk a lot about the Finns today.
Tomorrow. First game.
Luds, before we get into all the fun... Oh, there's the Mafia hoodie there. AllDLS.com. Sam and I were just talking about in the cold open. U.S. up 2-0 over Canada in the women's preliminary match between USA and Canada. Always nice to see Team USA in the lead over their cross-border rivals.
Yeah, I guess all that matters is that final score and the big game. But I think we come to expect a lot of this. Generally, they're usually pretty close and pretty competitive games.
This one so far, Sam, U.S. pushing.
Yeah, they look faster.
Yeah.
I love watching this U.S. team play. They have such skill. The second goal from Anna Bilkis from DFW.
Dallas area.
Was just an incredible pass from a defenseman moving up in the rush. But they look like a faster, much better team. I know it's only been 20 minutes, but it's been really fun to watch because they're scoring highlight reel goals, which is always a good time.
Always pretty. All right, before we get into all that, let's talk about the Olympics a bit more because we have Sam wrote an article on our website today, alldls.com, talking about Glen Gulutzan, the coaching staff, and the team and how they've meshed and figured things out, or have they, over the first 57 games. That'll be our second half of the show today, and we'll talk a little bit about that because we are in that sort of last day before the men's tournament starts. Tomorrow, USA will play Latvia on Thursday, the men's first game for Team USA. We are going to do a watch-along after our show. So Luds will be here on Thursday. We'll do our regular show from 2 to 3, and then Sam and I are going to head upstairs, I think, or maybe stay down here. I don't know. We're going to do it somewhere, either here or there, and we'll continue until the end of the USA-Latvia game as a watch-along. We'll say goodbye to Luds because trying to get him to sync up with our TVs at the same time would just be...
In what hopefully is already a 5-0.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a
lead.
runaway by that point. And he can call in and it won't even matter or something like that. Or
Call in from the snowmobile.
Let him go right to the sleds. But we do want to talk about this sort of build up a little bit more. Yesterday, we spent a lot of time previewing the tournament, talking about the teams. And today we're going to focus on Dallas Stars Olympians, the individuals themselves of the various teams. Luds, before we get into that, though, one of the rules that we didn't really talk about, you made a mention of the officiating and the standard being a little different. But the one thing we didn't mention, which maybe we took for granted because we've watched plenty of international games over the years, is that IAHF rules are if you get into a fight, it's an immediate game ejection, just like college hockey, Sam, your favorite. And so for all the talk about playing tough and building the lineup like Canada and U.S. is essentially with the thought of probably playing each other, we will not see what we saw when they played each other in the Four Nations in the round robin, where there were 3 fights right away to start the game, because that would lead to 6 players being thrown out right away. They're not going to be doing that, are they?
They may be doing that in the gold medal game when it gets late into the third period and one team is sideways. That that would not surprise me if that happens. But yeah, I think when they go to all this trouble of picking and building their teams and things like that, things kind of fall out of whack if one of those parts is missing. So I don't think that you're going to see a less aggressive game. I just think a lot of the after the whistle stuff probably won't be there as we usually see.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, by the way, Control owns still waiting for the podcast where Luds does it live from his
Me
sled.
too.
That's the expectation one of these days. You never know. But Sam, like you are going to have to be somewhat tempered, and that may be harder for those players to do because they're used to playing on that line normally, but then that if you go over it, it's just a 5-minute penalty. That will be something that I'm sure they will have to at least keep everybody aware, because I don't think that's really going to be an issue when the U.S. plays in their prelim games. They'll be excited, but I don't think that you're going to see, that temptation.
Yeah.
But if you do play one of the other favorites, maybe in a knockout game, and like Lud said, if it's down to the end where the game's falling apart, maybe that happens and you get kicked out, but you can't risk getting thrown out in the first period because you tried to scrap with a guy.
Yeah, and it takes some of the intimidation away, because it's not just fights. They also call this camera. Oh, I got it.
Hot Sam Cam.
Sometimes, I don't remember. It's not just fights that are different here. They call things a little tighter as well. Like, I know it's probably going to be NHL referees for a lot of these games, especially the ones US Canada or any of those big ones, but it's still called a little bit tighter. It's still a little bit less of the physicality. I'm sure they'll be pretty quick to blow some whistles. It takes away some of the game, which is why I was surprised that US specifically, but even Canada, built the team kind of for that a little bit. How rowdy can the Tkachuks be under these rules and on this stage against a bigger team or against a faster team? They're going to get held up a little bit. They can't impose their will as much. Same with Sam Bennett for Canada or other players like that. They kind of play that role. So they're going to have to play that line, because these power plays are incredibly elite, as we already know. If the U.S. is playing Canada and Canada takes a few penalties because they're trying to run guys, you're going to be in trouble because they're going to score a lot on these power plays. So it surprised me a little bit how the teams were built, because of the fact that this should be more of a skilled game than an intimidating game, which, to be honest with you, I don't know about you, Luds. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish they were playing NHL rules like Four Nations, let them go do their thing and impose their will a little bit, but I know it's the international level.
I just think you're going to see what we expect to see between those two countries. Just limit the fighting. I just think that you're going to see the rough play. You're going to see the penalties. And I would think that the referees may give a little leniency in certain areas because of the stage that it's on. In Europe, isn't the European rules in their leagues and things like that, if there's any head contact, isn't that an automatic game?
Yes.
Yep.
So do those rules apply here then also?
I believe they play by international rules.
They're playing by the IHF apparently. Rules, yes. So you'll have to be very careful.
So if there's any head contact.
Yeah, in fact, I believe there is a discussion going on right now in the U.S.-Canada women's game about they're reviewing a play which looks like a hit up high. And that's, you're going to see that, Luds, where you can see the referees go to the box, look in the monitor, and make decisions about that in basically in real time, or, right after a play stops.
Well, and what it makes me think of is how many times in the last few years now have we seen embellishment by players, trying to draw those penalties, and I just wonder how much of this is going to come into play. And I would believe that there have been meetings and all that kind of stuff with the officials, and how the things are going to be a little bit different and what's going to be called here, and so I just hope that none of that stuff holds back from what we're hoping to see.
Yeah. They actually just had this where a player for Team Canada came off the bench and caught a U.S. forward kind of blindside, but upon review, it was only given 2 minutes for interference. They determined that it was not a check to the head. And I think, honestly, this is a good thing, because for what you say, if there is ruled of maybe they're trying to oversell the call, that they can look at those and say, hey, it's a penalty, but it's not an ejection because you didn't get hit in the head or you're making a meal out of it or whatever it is. I understand that some people don't like that, review slows down the game and there's pauses and stoppages, but to combat players maybe taking some extra cell jobs, maybe it's worth it while.
It'll be interesting to see if anybody is concerned about any of that kind of stuff because they can dress 22. Is that correct now?
They can dress 20. Yes, they can dress 2 extra skaters. So 20 skaters, 22 total.
Yes, 22 with the goalies.
Right. So you'd be curious, when, again, I agree with you guys. I don't know how much would go on between U.S. and Canada when they're playing one of the other European countries, but when they're playing each other, do they want to put those guys in the lineup, the 2 extra guys, just because something could happen? Things are called a little bit more strict and not risking being down a player if something happens early in the game. I don't think that's going to happen, but I just wonder if that's part of anybody's thought process.
All right, you ready to talk about some players?
Let's do it.
Who would you like to start with, Sam? We have 7 Dallas Stars Olympians.
Let's start with the Finns.
You want to start with the Mafia?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's start with the guy that we talked about a fair amount yesterday. That's Miro Heiskanen. What are your expectations for Miro in terms of what he can do, how important he is to Finland, and what kind of performance you think you'll see from him over the next 2 weeks?
Take what he does for Dallas on a given night when you look up and he's played 27 minutes. He's played the power play. He's played the penalty kill. He's got 2 points. He's +2. He's making all those plays defensively and enhance it maybe by 1.5 because him and Esa Lindell are gonna be the top pair, just like they are here in Dallas. And I would be surprised, Luds. I'm curious your answer here, but I would be surprised if Miro doesn't play 30 minutes or more in every one of these games. Right?
Yeah. When you look at their group of defensemen, in my opinion, he's the easiest and most rounded defenseman there. So that's not going to surprise me. When it comes to, if we're talking about points and who's going to accumulate the most points, the first one I guess I wanted to see is Miro. And then I just think to myself, all the guys, we know Miro isn't the kind of guy that jumps into the rush and takes shots on his own on the power play. He's always making the pass first kind of thing. We're seeing him shoot a little bit more. And when you've got the people that they have, including Mikko, and that my answer is going to be Rantanen, I believe will have the most points of all these, but there seems to be more passing going on, right? It may start with Miro, but it can go here, and then it goes here, then it goes there, and he doesn't even get in on the second assist. So when it comes to points, but from a playing standpoint, I don't expect his minutes to be anything different than what he does during the regular season.
I think that you're going to see that. You're going to see Miro. I'm not sold on Miro's going to lead them in an offense. I think you're right. I think Mikko's that. We'll talk about Mikko in a second.
Is he going to be the power play quarterback?
I think like he probably is because unless they want to go 5 forwards, I was just looking at their lineup, right?
They did that last year.
I mean, Esa is not a surprise power play guy. He's on the second unit, but he typically likes to play in the bumper because he's good at it. But
Ryan, do you have Finland's roster?
If you look at the other defensemen, Nico Mikkola, Rasmus Ristolainen is a good player. Yep. His problem is just injuries over the last few years. Olli Mata, Henri Jokiharju. To me, there's only one that I would say. There it is.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Miro's the quarterback. Miro. But they do have a lot of power play guys, right? Whether it's the top guys with Hintz, Rantanen, and Granlund. Arturi Lehkonen, of course, is on the power play with Colorado. Sebastian Aho, Teuvo Teravainen with Carolina. I mean, they're loaded. Eli Tolvanen on the fourth line has got a great shot. Maybe he gets a chance to get down low, but I think there's a no-brainer that Miro's your quarterback for the power play.
He should be. He should, especially because he's always been, he's been that guy here, but he's actually been really good. I know that he's just passing to elite players right now, but he's been really good on the power play. Notice how we haven't complained a whole lot about him on the power play.
Well, it's because the power
Thomas
play
Harley.
is so good, and I think that leads into the Moose.
Yeah.
Because, Luds, if you're going to talk about the Finnish power play, and we're talking about Miro, doesn't everything go through Mikko Rantanen?
Yep, 100%. And, and I think in Dallas, as we talk about Miro, he, like you said, we're not complaining because he's getting pucks to the net now. There's more pucks that are going to the net from him, but I don't necessarily think that's his first instinct. Then now when you're talking about an Olympic team, and bringing the best of the best of the best as far as the Finns go. I just think Miro's that kind of guy that doesn't want to be selfish. He just wants to move it around to the top players. So that's why I think that the guy, and regardless of whoever else is on these teams, everything will go through Rantanen. I mean, I believe that the rest of those guys on that roster believe that it's going to go through Rantanen. So, how much does he want to share the wealth and get it back to? I just don't think Miro's going to get a lot of pucks from down low there and get them back and get them to the net. And I just think that Rantanen's going to continue to do the same things he does with, whether it's with Robo or Wyatt. Those are his two best plays, is to find those little seams and those high danger areas for quality chances.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I think they would be stupid not to have Roope in front of their net, Rantanen on his side on the right, Miro up top, and I don't know if they have a righty.
So the question is that I feel like Granlund was great as a retrieval guy. He could maybe go on that half wall, or maybe Sebastian Aho, who is a righty.
Aho would be good. Aho's a lefty.
Is he?
Aho's the guy.
Aho might be that guy.
They might have all lefties.
Is it? I thought he was righty.
No, he's a lefty.
Okay. But either way, like, and then, do you give, Teravainen a shot? They have guys, right?
They have a lot of right-handed players on their team.
I also, honestly, Luds, you could have Lehkonen in the front of the net and have Roope play in the bumper, too. Yeah. And Rope's shown that he and Wyatt can switch and move back and forth. The Finns have I don't think the power play is going to be their problem.
No, I agree. I just think that, again, the depth and I think every time I'm thinking about them playing, I'm thinking about them playing against Canada and US. And
yeah.
That's I think, and that I'm sure they are too. I mean, I think we all know, or all feel at least, that those are obviously the top teams and every other team there. But there's going to be those guys. And again, I think the Finns have an opportunity, as long as they don't want to get into exchanging chances, and they usually don't. They play a pretty tight to the vest, a very structured system. And again, when you put superstar teams together, and I'm talking about Canada and US. Now, did they do that? I don't think Canada did that as much as the US, but they seem to want to play catch all the way up and down the ice and then just kind of tap it into the net. I don't believe that's what Canada went for. I think Canada, and you mentioned yesterday, look at the guys you have on each line. There's a reason those guys are there. They're there to make some space for those other guys, and it's not going to be boom, tic-tac-toe all over the ice.
All right, let's take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll finish talking about Roope Hintz, Esa Lindell, and then move on from Finland and talk about the other Stars Olympians next on the DLLS Stars podcast. Do you have a plan in place, or are you trying to make a plan for that special someone for Valentine's Day? They have great deals at Wild Fork Foods meat and seafood market, and to help with all of that, let's talk about a couple of them. Salmon pinwheels with lobster stuffing, $5 a piece. Lobster tails, $7.98 a tail. How about beef tenderloin medallions? My personal favorite, $10 per piece. You can save 10% when you buy 2 USDA choice beef picanha steaks. Save 9% when you buy 2 bacon-wrapped beef tenderloins. Bacon, tenderloin. It's amazing. Why don't you do more of that? Argentine red shrimp, $11.98 per pound. Of course, dessert, $6.98 chocolate lava cake. But every dollar counts with perfect bundles too. $32 lobster tails and filet mignon, $25 Argentine shrimp, and USDA choice beef New York strip steak. Everything at Wild Fork Foods is amazing. So check them out. One of their 9 DFW locations, and of course on their website, wildforkfoods.com.
Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss this chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. Prize Picks is super simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You get your picks right, you could cash in all your favorite sports. Anything from basketball, baseball, hockey, UFC, soccer, college basketball, tennis, golf, and even esports. That's right. We're talking video games. Download the Prize Pick app today and use code DLLS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code DLLS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
All right, back on here. Sam is just yelling at us.
Yeah,
but,
just do it. Sign up.
Sign up for Prize Picks, right? Let's talk about Roope Hintz for a minute. Luds, I was very disappointed with Roope's performance of the Four Nations last year. I wasn't the only one. I thought he had a real anonymous tournament. Look, Mikko Rantanen wasn't great either. I said this yesterday. I think he was really distracted. I think Mikko's going to have a much bigger tournament. I think Roope is looked better with the Stars this year. You've been very complimentary of his game so far in the 57 games this season. Obviously, he's missed some due to injury, but I try not to be too excited. I think he's going to have a better performance this year in the Olympics than what we saw in the Four Nations last year.
I think he's going to be the second best player there, maybe third. I just, the way that he has played this season, to me, night and day. And I think that ever since he got in to the NHL, and you see spots and you see glimpses and you see, man, and then it seems like it was an on and off kind of thing. And it could be from period to period or shift to shift. But his consistency, his willingness to go into those areas, and I've said it a lot this year, where, in the past, it seemed like if Miro ever got hit with a puck, you almost had the impression that he'd get hit with a mortar, and you were thinking, man, and then he didn't come back. And now
he jumps into it.
Hit, he goes right back to the front of the net. And so I've been very impressed with the 180 that I feel I've seen this year than in the past.
And the one with me is consistency with Roope Hintz. We've talked about it, and I've talked about it since I've followed this team since he came into the league. Luz just said it. He goes and he has one of those games exploding through the middle. He's got 2 breakaways. His quick release shot over the glove, so super easy, or 5-hole. Looks like the goalie's not even ready. And then the next game or 2 games, you don't even notice him. And every time it's just, is he capable of doing that consistently? Because it wasn't the question of, oh man, why is he not doing it consistently? It got to the point where it was, is he physically capable of doing that? Or is it just his body can only do that for a certain number of games per season? This year for me, he's been consistent, and he's been consistent in all of the areas. His goal scoring hasn't been electric. He is not on pace for another 30 whatever goal season like he had last year, but his consistency in every level of the game, and in his checking, in his toughness, as Lutz is talking about, in his little parts of the game, that is what is going to be really important at this tournament, because he's going to be responsible for playing a 2-way center role on the top line against some really, really talented teams. He's going to have to be able to play that 2-way game that he's been really great at.
Esa Lindell. We watched the Four Nations, and because Finland didn't play as well, I don't think Esa got as much due as he was deserved. And we all talked about how great Jacob Slavin showed in that tournament. And Jacob Slavin, I believe, is one of the best defensive defensemen in the NHL. And I think Esa is one of those as well. But because the team didn't have that success last year, I don't know if he necessarily got noticed as much. Is that going to change this year in the Olympics?
It should, especially because I think they're going to get into some penalty trouble here and there. Talking like when they play Sweden, and if they play a U.S. or Canada or something like that in the round after, once they get through the preliminary, they're not as deep, they're not as fast, they're not as talented as those teams. I think maybe they get a penalty here and there. That's where Esa shines in terms of the eyeballs, right? And if you're going to see him make a lot of plays, if you're Luds or if you're us watching really close to what he's doing in the intricacies of the game. But it's when he's shorthanded and you notice he's out there for a minute 40 straight, blocked 2 shots and clearing pucks. Maybe he puts in an empty netter down the ice. That's where he's going to stand out. I just think it's hard for him because Slavin made plays against McDavid and against the top players where you had to go, wow, look at that play he made. Finland's not really playing those type of players. The Finland-Sweden game will be good to watch him. Couple of those guys,
most exciting game of the preliminaries.
Yeah, those guys love to cut to the middle, and Zibanejad and those guys love to cut across the middle. That's where Esa can really use his stick and his positioning and catch a few eyes here and there. But it's hard to pick him out as much as it's easy to pick out Miro.
Luds, we all love Esa. What do you think he's going to do in the Olympics this year?
I don't think you're going to see anything different. I mean, I guess I'm not expecting him to pop off the page, right? But there, like Sam said, all the little things that he does, he's very deliberate how he plays his game. He doesn't get out of position, rarely does he. And if he does, I truly believe it's, and a lot of times I look at it from the PK side of things, where he may be the offside defenseman and he's not in front of the net, but that's more design and structure the way the Stars want to play. It's not Esa making a mistake. And what does he do? He just makes the first pass. He defends, as Sam said, with his stick. He gets to the front of the net. He doesn't necessarily block a lot of shots, and he's not a super physical player, but he's just dependable. I mean, you can count on him every single shift for the most part. Now, and I do believe that he's probably going to be the guy that plays the second most minutes of those guys.
Yes.
Unfortunately for the Dallas Stars, they're going to have worn out. They're not going to the Olympics to get a break. It's not going to happen. So they're going to be the guys that are out there the most and playing the most minutes. And depending on how far they go, they're going to come back, and they probably need, a couple of weeks. They're not going to get it, but I mean, they need a couple of weeks like everybody else is getting. But when it comes to Esa, I just every day, and people ask me about it, I said, whatever you saw yesterday in the game, that's what you're getting today. That's what you will get every day.
You see Allie's in the chat today?
I see. I haven't talked to
like
Allie in a long time.
Been in the chat as much lately, although she's a hilarious follow on Instagram. She's got humor and jokes, and all that implies a lot, which I enjoy.
Yes, Allie. I was born the year before they came to Dallas, so technically didn't start following this team until they were in Dallas.
I mean, if you were born the year before,
I was a big fan. When
92,
I was one, I think I was at every game.
So you're talking about maybe towards the
2000 was my first.
So after Luds
game.
Retired.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I never got to see Luds play in person.
There you go.
Which would have been nice.
You didn't miss a damn thing.
Well, let's talk about the other defenseman that's on our list, and that's Thomas Harley. He had a phenomenal rise in the middle of the Four Nations last year, coming out of the reserves, almost on the beach.
Hiding in the tunnel.
Right? Hiding in the tunnel because technically wasn't he allowed to practice or whatever. The rules were all kind of convoluted. And then he plays because Makar's sick and they had another injury. And what was it? Theodore. I think got hurt. And then all of a sudden Harley shows up and he's just great. He looks so confident. I know we're all hoping for that. The first question is, will he play? And then secondly, if he does, will he look like last year's Thomas Harley or this year's Thomas Harley? Which, by the way, in the last week or so started to look, couple
much
of
better.
late goals, overtime winner, starting to, maybe this is what pulls him out of that early season funk.
Yeah, the funny thing about last year with the Four Nations is that was almost perfect for Thomas Harley. He seems like the kind of guy where he gets off a bus and you pick him up and you put him on a rink, and that's his best game because he didn't think about it. He didn't have stuff. He didn't have prep. He just came out and just played hockey because he's such a relaxed guy, loves to be kind of free-flowing. That, I think, fed into it last year. Luz has talked about distractions all year with Thomas Harley. He's had so much going on with the contract, with the classic DiGiorno sponsor, with his Olympics situation, with his injury. It'll be really good for Harley just to get there and play. He's going to play a little bit at least, obviously, because they're lucky for U.S. and Canada. Everyone should play because they play three teams that are much lower than them. Canada has a little tougher game against Czechia, but he will play. It's just, to be honest with you, I don't know the answer, and I'm okay saying that. I don't know how he's going to play because he should be at the best chance to play well at the Olympics because this is the best he's played all season right now for Dallas, but also you don't know because he's been inconsistent.
Well, and Harley's going to probably get some time during the preliminary rounds, but if it goes the way we expect for both Canada and the U.S., it may not be anything that we can hang our hats on until we get to the quarterfinals and beyond.
Do you think Drew Doughty's going to be in the top six?
I don't know. Do you?
I have a feeling he's not, but then there's a part of me that knows the competitor that he is and when he was there. But I think if you're not going by those couple of things, I don't think he's in the top six. I think he's number 7, which
I would dress him.
You what?
Who, Doughty?
I would dress Doughty. Even if he's not in your top 6, that's the kind of guy on the bench and playing 5 minutes is more impactful than not having him. Yeah.
And see, that's where I'm going with this.
Is that work for Doughty, Luds, at his age to not play a regular shift?
Yeah, I don't know, but I think there's some intangibles there, like Sam has meant. It's the intangibles about Doughty. And I think what happens is when he does get that opportunity to play, whether he's part of the top 6 or 7, he competes, and I think guys can feed off of him. And the reason I'm even bringing him up is because that's where, for me, I think Doughty's ahead of Harley as of today in that group. I could be completely wrong in that. But I agree he's obviously. I can see them taking 2 guys out, taking 2 defensemen, and putting 2 in for the second or first or second game.
Yeah.
And I think there's guys that are going to be cool with that. Like, yeah, we know we're going to get in, but we're probably going to play down the road. We're good pulling the plug here for Drew to get in. And so to answer, if we're talking about Thomas Harley, I don't know. I mean, I hope that when he gets into the game that he's going to get in, because I don't believe that he's going to go through the Olympics and not get a sniff. But I do think, I hope he plays the way that he did at Four Nations, not in the beginning, or what he's played like in the last few games here in Dallas, because he's definitely been better.
Yeah.
I think he's gotten better every game since he was, getting closer to the Olympics. So he's still not the guy that we've seen leading up to the Four Nations and then coming and playing in the Four Nations yet.
I think if you look at the Canadian defensive pairings that we showed yesterday, Taves McCarr, that's number one right there, right? Josh Morrissey, Colton Parayko, that's the second pairing. That's not changing. So now you're at Theodore Sanheim, and all due respect to Travis Sanheim, he's a great player. Sanheim's the one I could see them flopping Doughty in for.
That's
right?
The guy.
Yeah, I would say Theodore and Harley would be.
But I don't see Harley swapping in for Theodore unless they want fresh legs. Do you?
Sorry, I meant Sanheim, Doughty, Harley would be your rotate.
Because the left, they've got Taves, Morrissey.
On the left or the right?
Sanheim's on the right.
Okay. He's your. To me, it's those three. Maybe what it really is. Maybe it's Harley and Sanheim. I think Doughty goes up in there. I just think that I believe that the pecking order, unfortunately for Thomas, is Doughty's ahead of him. That's what I think. And again, not necessarily because of. Now, I guess we don't even have those two guys on there, right? But not necessarily because of other things, just because of what Ayala said that Doughty is, and he wears that logo on his chest. He's got the flag on his chest, and so I believe he's an important piece to that, and I think that had a lot to do with him making the team. So that's why I believe that Thomas will be behind Doughty, and maybe I don't know why they're picking. Well, I guess I do. I'm just all things being even, and see why. So anyway, well, who knows? I don't know.
I think Doughty might be the only right-handed defenseman in that group.
Other than McCarr. Oh, in the bottom.
The bottom, but you have McCarr up top, and then you only have Doughty. So if they do want any sort of right-handed, that might
Doughty
come into play as well.
Yeah, it would make sense. All right, up next, we'll talk about Jake Oettinger and Radek Faksa, and then we'll get into Sam's article as we continue here on the DLS Stars podcast. We're going to have to do the old Wayne's World. But before we do that, let's talk about the merchandise, because I'm wearing a classic. I know it's been a year now, and I know there's new stuff with the Mavericks, but I will still wear my Lucas shirts here at DLS, and that one's...
He's still on the Mavs, isn't he?
One of two. No, but in the, summer of 2028, maybe a free agent. Maybe we can bring our boy home.
At least the trade worked out on our end here.
Oh, totally. But they did get Cooper Flight, but that's beside the point. If you want to sign to get the Die Hard discount, great idea. Look at the merch. This shirt, the Finnish Mafia hoodie. Sam's got the Sports Over Anything collection going on today. I have one of those. I haven't worn it yet.
Nice.
The Moose, right? The Finisher, the hats, the Otter shirt. I could rattle them all off.
Hopefully we get some Olympic shirts.
Great looking shirts. The Captain. Boy, that was good timing. I just said that and Ryan put it up,
that
right?
Was nice.
That was really, you can't make it.
You guys are just like that.
20% off if you're a diehard. You get a free t-shirt if you've never been a diehard before. Sign up today. The hats, everything, and now Supporters Club.
Yeah, Supporters Club. I know Harry's in the chat today. So Harry, what did I call him? Badge. What did I call it yesterday? Badgies. Yeah. So if you want to get your exclusive badgies, sign up for your YouTube Supporters Club so you can get those badgies, and you can also get exclusive emojis like Luds, all the ones you see there with the big text and the Cowboys and Bing Bong, all that fun stuff. Exclusive emojis, as well as the Stanley Cone, which is right up above my head, I believe. I can't turn my head. But the Supporters Club is cool because you also get exclusive behind-the-scenes videos. And I know I keep bringing up the Luds one because that's the latest one. And so far, that's the best one we've had. I think we did one when we were all watching the game one time. There's just some fun behind-the-scenes stuff that you only get when you join the Supporters Club. And as I mentioned over and over again, when you have that exclusive badge or exclusive emoji, you pop out in the chat. It's going to be important when we get to the playoffs because the chat starts flowing in. So join right now.
Harry. I'm laughing
tiny
at
head.
Allie, but Harry said badgies. We don't need no stinking badgies.
Yep.
He adjusted very
Appreciate
quickly.
it.
All right, let's talk about the goaltending for Team USA and Jake Oettinger specifically, because, again, we're going through each of the Dallas Stars Olympians. And, yes, we are fully aware that there should be 2 more, at least, maybe 3. We thought maybe 10. Wyatt Johnston was 1. Liam Bichel with the whole Switzerland thing would be 1. Yes, we're very aware that Jason Robertson easily could be on this team. But Jake Oettinger is part of the 3-headed U.S. goaltending monster of Connor Hellebuyck, Jeremy Swayman, and Oettinger. Luds, we talked a little bit about this yesterday with Team USA preview. Are we going to see Jake more than? I mean, you think that they're going to rotate in the group stage? I think you're right. But is it still Hellebuyck or bust?
I believe it is. I think that they're going off of
Going
more
down on Hellebuyck.
That history and not about what's happened here. So I just think that he's the guy that they're gonna start with. I believe that Jake will get the second game. I guess that's my ahead of Swayman. I think whatever that next game is, and hopefully it's game 2. But it would be interesting to see what happens after game 2. I think Hellebuyck gets game 1. I think Jake gets game 2. And then are they just going to say that, hopefully for Jake, are they going to say that Swayman is that backup guy? If anybody gets injured or something bad happens to one of those 2, that's when he gets his opportunity to dress and be on the bench. But it will be interesting for me to see who plays game 3, more important, because I believe who's ever playing 3 is, he's up next. He's up to bat next, and they're going to ride that goaltender as far as they go.
The big one for me is how long the leash is. I agree. Hellebuyck is their. I believe they think Hellebuck's their guy. He's going to start game 1. And as Luds was talking about with me, I think in the studio before he left, it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to win those games. Hopefully they win those games, and hopefully they win them 8-1 or 6-0.
That would be nice.
But if Hellebuyck lets in a couple goals that are,
I don't know.
shaky.
I don't think it is nice. I think they need to get pushed. I think they need to get tested to figure out which guy is their guy.
Yeah, but how? How can you get tested?
Don't you think
Germany, maybe?
I wish they would.
Yeah, it would be tough. It would be nice, honestly. I would love if they had Finland or Sweden or even Canada in the group and just play them, get a test so you're up to speed, because that's what we talked. I said that yesterday on our show. It's going to be hard for Canada and the U.S. to go into those competitive games,
especially with the format.
Yeah,
because all 12 teams get to play in a knockout phase, right? We talked about yesterday. You don't get knocked out of the group, even if you go 0-3. You still get a chance to play.
Yeah.
So why not get tested? It's like now at least you know where you stand.
Yeah, I think that Canada, Czechia is not a rollover game, so I'm not going to say Canada as well, but U.S. really shouldn't play a competitive game till the semifinal.
I wouldn't
That's
expect.
tough.
I mean, I think
That's
Sweden
really
and Finland,
tough.
maybe the advantage of the 2 rivals playing each other in the preliminaries will benefit both of those teams.
Yeah, so I'm just curious to see the leash.
Of those 3 first games, which game is the toughest? Is there even one?
I want to say Germany because of Draisaitl and Stützle, Moritz Seider, and Philipp Grubauer.
And which game is that? 2 or 3?
The second or third. I can tell you that.
The reason I say that is, to me, the guy that you believe is going to be the number 1 guy, and if it's kind of close, you would.
Germany's the third game, Luds. It's on Sunday.
Yeah,
they play Denmark on Saturday, and then Thursday is Latvia.
See, for me, then that's even more. I just think if you really want to nail it down, if they want to start with Hellebuyck gets 1, Otter gets 2. And then they go back to Hellebuyck again against Germany because it's a little bit tougher game, and make sure that they're getting what they're getting. Not that that's a super test, but and if he poo-poos the bed, maybe, who knows, maybe Jake gets the next one. Or maybe they say, you know what, we didn't see enough from either one of them till we go with Swayman. I think it's a tough call for him.
Yeah, it's going to be
Latvia
both goalies.
I want to ask you about Latvia real quick because you mentioned goalies. They don't have a big NHL laden group, but they do have Elvis.
They do.
And he could be the one that, Latvia always surprises a team at some point, makes 55 saves, and they hang around.
I don't know if you know, the Team USA beat the Soviet Union in 1980.
I've heard that. Spoiler alert.
Yep. Sorry. Go watch the documentary if you haven't already on Netflix. But
I haven't watched the new one, but I can't wait for it.
But the reason I'm bringing that up is because Jim Craig, I think, had like 39 saves or something like that in that game. They got outshot like 42-11 or something in the game they beat the Soviet Union. Goalies can flip just like they can in the NHL, but especially at this level where you're a lesser team. If a goalie stands on his head, it doesn't matter that you're racking up shots. The Team Finland for the women's game, they were in the game for a while because their goalie had made 20 saves or whatever in the first 2 periods. So look out for Elvis to have a good game. Look out for that same thing on the other side with Canada. But it's going to be really hard, and I'm curious. Back to the Team USA goalies, I'm really curious to see. Jake, we know, has had trouble the last couple of years giving up that 1 goal per game where you're just, he'd really like to have that. He really should have that. Hellebuck's done the same thing. And for the most part, when they were rolling last year, he wasn't. But after that, in the playoffs specifically, and then this year, he's had that same issue. So I'm wondering if it's more of a mentality for Bill Guerin and his staff of just saying, you know what, we're going to watch him versus, he let up 2 goals. It's not going to be the number. It's going to be, how did he let up that goal? Does he look like he's a little shaky? Let's go to Jake. Does he look like he's a little shaky? Maybe let's go to Swayman. Let's see all 3 of them and see who goes in that first game in the quarterfinal.
I think all 3 of them could win games. They could win the tournament for him. But going back to the original theory, and then we'll go on to Faksa and the Czechs. Luds, you said this before, and it stuck with me, is that they were 1 shot away from winning in overtime last year against Canada in the final, right? And they had their chances, right? Binnington came up with a couple dandies, especially against Austin Matthews. Then they go down and they end up scoring on Hellebuck. They weren't going to overhaul this roster because they felt they were right there. I mean, the NHL and the Stanley Cup final, you play best of 7. If those 2 teams played a best of 7, first of all, sign me up. Where do I watch those? But also, the U.S. could have easily won 4-7, and so could Canada. So I don't know if they're going to make any huge sways unless, like, Hellebuck's awful. I think even if he's average, they still know that he was their guy, and I don't know if they're going to change from that.
Yeah, I think the leash is longer with him. And
yeah.
I think there's a couple players that we, that were selected for the U.S. Team this year that, didn't show well in the 4 Nations thing. But I do believe that, the U.S., I don't know if this is the same for Canada, but there is some loyalty with U.S. And a lot of these guys have played with a lot of the U.S. events that have gone on in their careers. And they're there, whether I think the one that probably stands out the most for them is when the playoffs are over, or when the season's over and then guys make that decision to go and play for U.S. when they can very easily say
in the World Championships.
No.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was one of them guys. I remember when I got asked, I said, man, I got a ski school. I had a water ski school back here. I can't do it. I said, man, I'd really love to. I'm kind of obligated to it. Well, little did I know, one of the guys on the committee had his own ski school, and he said, I'll send one of my guys there to do it. And I'm like, no, I got to be there. So I never got asked again. So I had softball to play, so it was okay with me. But, I just think that the loyalty is a big part of it.
All right, let's talk about Faksa real quick, because I loved something that Luds brought up yesterday about the Czechs playing with a chip on their shoulder because they weren't involved in the 4 Nations, kind of saying, hey, we're better than these qualifying teams. We belong here. They've won Olympic gold before. Do they have Dominik Hasek in net? They do not, but they aren't a terrible hockey team.
Who's their goalie again?
Is it Dan Vladar?
Yes,
going to be
that
the
sounds
starter.
Right. I think they have 2 pretty good. Yeah, Dostal.
Lucas,
it should be Dostal.
I think Dostal should be the starter.
I thought they had another one. So that's another one that you're talking about.
Fox is a 4th line guy, right? I don't expect him to go out there and light up the offense, but Stronsky, we know for a long time ago from the AHL with Dallas or with the Texas Stars.
Yes, go read Robert Tiffin's article on Stronsky and Faksa.
It's a fun combo, right?
Fun. It's fun stuff.
I just think that they have a really good top line, an okay second line, and third is a pretty good 4th line. Not just because it's Faksa and Stronsky, but I'm not sure. I mean, they have guys that have NHL experience in the defensive side. This team is better than a lot of the Olympic entries. I'm not sure if they can hang with U.S., Canada, Finland, Sweden.
They got to play Canada first.
I mean, but the best thing for them is that they don't have to worry about losing to Canada in the preliminaries to progress to the knockout stage.
Yes.
That's a big deal for a team like that.
Yeah, and they should have a chance to beat those other 2 teams in that group and give themselves a good chance to get not a bye probably, but a good chance to get some traction. But I think This one specifically, it's the same way with Finland. It's the same way with Sweden, where certain players need to take a step up. Andre Palat needs to score 3 goals.
Yes.
You need to have Hurdle, the top line of Hurdle, Pasternak, and Natchez. They need to dominate. That's the key for
losing
Czechia.
Zaka hurts.
It hurts, but you have a guy like Pasternak who is still one of the best scorers in the NHL.
And Natchez
has been incredible. Thomas Hurdle is one of those guys that you kind of forget about, but he is an incredible skill player and a power forward. That's what they needed to do to have success. Is they really need to push. The key for them, like I mentioned with whoever we were just talking about before, goaltending. Dostal and Vladar are very good goalies. Dostal has been really good for the Ducks at a lot of times this year. They need to have that step up for those teams, Finland, Sweden, and Czechia, to have a chance to beat or compete with the big teams. Those are the 3 things that have to happen no matter what.
So, Luds, with Faksa, how important is his skill as a penalty killer going to be for the Czechs?
Average. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be average. I just think that this is a team that isn't going to take a lot of penalties, but I'm looking forward to it. And from Radek understands where he is in his career. He understands what his role is on this team. He will be their lead guy, I believe, when it comes out there to killing penalties. But for them, they need to score some goals. And I'm looking forward to this. This is the Natchez Pasta show for me. I just think these 2 guys are going to be as close to being part of the whole Harlem Globetrotters as possible, because they don't feel like they've got a team that's going to, be in a gold medal game, and they're going to be there to have their skill and everything that they can do on display. And I believe the 2 of them will be very entertaining to watch. I hope they are. I don't know how much Hurdle gets to touch the puck after the first pass to one of those 2 guys, because I think that they're going, hey, let's just go out here, have fun. Let's show people what we can do.
Speaking of the Olympics and U.S. Canada, 4-0 U.S. women's over Canada right now.
Yeah,
as they get to the end of the second period. Hannah Bilka with a second goal.
Coppell's own Hannah Bilka with 2.
Love to see it. Now they just have to be sure they do it again in the medal round.
Shots are 22-10.
They're dominating.
Right,
absolutely dominating.
All over. All right, up next, let's talk about the Stars for a minute. We have a piece on our website from Sam. We'll get into that next here on DLLS. But first, let's talk about being a diehard, Sam, because honestly, we may be a little biased. It's a great value. If you want to read Sam's article, we're going to talk about that in this next segment. Sign up to be a diehard today if you aren't already. If you want discounts on merchandise, if you want a free t-shirt, if you want to participate in the damn Discord channel.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. We're bringing it back. We haven't done it for a while because games have come fast and furious. We just haven't had time. But we are going to do it weekly, and we're going to do one on Thursday during the show, on Thursday show this week, the damn Discord channel. Now, we're not just calling it the Luds damn Discord channel because Sam would like some questions too. He'd like to open it up.
I feel bad for Luds. He gets so many questions and he doesn't have the answers to
Luds just beating him down with questions. But if you want to ask a question, comment, hypothetical for Luds, Sam, me, whatever, hit us up. I just put it in the Discord this afternoon. Make sure you reply to that because it's hard to find with all the chatter going on in the Stars Discord channel for here our DLS Stars Discord channel. Make sure you find mine and hit reply because that'll be easier that way. But we will give you a shout out. We'll put it up on the screen. We'll ask it through. Brought to you by Ownwell. We have a sponsor for it. And we're very excited to bring the damn Discord channel back with this Thursday.
Let's get really weird with it, you know?
Yep.
I want to get weird with it.
By the way, I can also, just because we're talking about being a diehard, we are going to have Seattle Kraken analyst from their TV broadcast, Allison Lucan. She was on the summer. Remember we talked about being the Spider mascot at University of Richmond? We're going to talk to her for a segment on Thursday as well about specifically the Kraken players that we are coveting at the trade deadline.
Oh, love that.
I thought that would be a lot of fun.
Love that.
So we'll talk to her on Thursday as well. But be a diehard.
Yeah.
It's
20% off, 20% off merch, 20% off events. And on top of the Discord, I'm also doing a mailbag article that's only diehards.
Diehard
so
mailbag.
You get questions, you get your own articles, you can request topics on the show. All kinds of cool stuff, alldls.com/diehard or this QR code right.
And we know, in case you're watching in the chat right now, live, how many folks in the chat carry their conversation over to the Discord.
Yep.
You have to be a diehard to get in there, though. So if you enjoy it, and I know a lot of people love the Discord,
just do it.
Man. Sign up to be a diehard.
All
right, Luds, we're not doing that today.
I
Let's
know
talk
that,
about-
but I'm going to have to find a nice quiet spot because I was thinking about trying to, because I'm flying into Mini. I land at noon on Pterodactyl Airlines. So
Is
I
this
don't never
Thursday
know
or Friday?
Yeah. So that's Thursday, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to have to find a nice little quiet spot way at the end of the terminal that I lay into and spend a little time over there for this.
Luds and I did an airport show when you were out in the summer.
Yeah.
I did it from the airport, and there were kids screaming and crying in the coffee shop. It was a full disaster.
Yeah,
so
I didn't realize. I found a nice quiet spot, but I didn't realize that I was in where the little kiddies get to go, and there's a little tiny Ferris wheel behind me, and it was all quiet. And then all of a sudden,
sitting in the kid zone.
A woman comes in with her kid. A woman comes in with her kid, and she starts changing his diaper right behind me. And so, yeah, so
that was awesome.
I love it. All right, Sam, you wrote a piece. It debuted today, I believe, on alldls.com. Oh, it was yesterday?
Yeah.
I know you were furiously hammering the keyboard yesterday.
Yes, I do that.
Before the show. So why don't you set it up, because I want to talk about the premise of this with Luds for the final segment here.
Sure. So we've talked a little bit about it, but to me, I took a kind of a step back at this break and looked at Glen Gulutzan's comments from early on when he first came in, training camp, his opening press conference, all that kind of stuff. He was really honest with us about what they wanted to do. What they wanted to do structurally, what they wanted to do, physically. The 1 degree we've talked about a ton, but he also preached patience over and over and over again. He said, "Look, this is not going to happen overnight." Lud said the exact same thing. He wants to see what this team looks like at Game 60 and beyond. When you look at this team, it's been a not bumpy. Bumpy is the wrong word because it's been a good year, obviously, where they rank, but it's been a up and down season where they've early on won a lot of games, but didn't necessarily play the best. Then they had the rough stretch. Lately, I've seen a shift that looks more like this is a consistent outlook of what this team could be, and it could translate into the playoffs. So I'm just going to read one part from the article, and then we can talk about it.
Please.
I just think this part's interesting. So I said, here's the difference I'm seeing during the stretch that it wasn't when they were winning most games early on. They are now nearly finding ways to lose after playing excellent hockey for 40-plus minutes, rather than barely finding a way to win when they probably didn't deserve to, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Whereas now it's like, oh, they should not blow that 3-goal lead, or they should really not give up that late goal and have to score in the last 20 seconds to win. But to me, that plus how they're playing for most of the game is a hell of a lot better than, wow, they won again, but it was terrible. So that's kind of the feeling that I have for the team.
Okay, so that's the question I asked the Luds. In the beginning of the year, the Stars would play one good period, and that would be enough for them to get a result. Sometimes squeaking it out by the skin of their teeth, but we'd go, wow, they dominated, but they just can't do it for very much. The last little stretch, right? There was a big stretch where they weren't very good, but the last little stretch, you're seeing, as Sam said, 40-plus. So 2+ periods where they look pretty good. And my question to you is, I know you're frustrated about that other part, but is that progress through 57 games?
I would have to say, yes, there's progress there. But the concern for me is when this team gets a lead, it's not like they take their foot off the gas, or maybe they do a little bit, or sometimes they don't start till late. That's the good thing is they feel confident they can win. But on the other side of the coin is if you're an opponent, and especially the coaching staff, and you're going to play a team in the playoffs, you're going to go back and you're going to look at all the times that they had a 3-2 lead, or they were up by 3 goals going into the third period. And you're going to find where they gave up 3 goals in that period, or they gave one late in the second, then 2 early ones in the third, and then it went to overtime. So what it does is it gives other teams confidence. We're never out of a game when you play the Dallas Stars. Yes, they can put up offense, we know that, but there's still going to be that belief. Whereas I prefer it that when a team gets up a couple goals and they're heading into the third period, because I played against teams like that, and you're sitting on the bench, and as much as you want to be the guy with the pom-poms, you're sitting there going, we know this team. They're not going to give it. They're not giving us nothing. We're not coming back. That's the problem that I have with letting these little things slip late in games, or just pockets in a game, knowing that the other opponent, or the opponent that you're playing against, goes, guys, relax. We're going to get our chances on these guys. Guys, we've seen their goaltenders, maybe not necessarily Casey, but we've seen this goaltender. There's been a goal that could go in at the odd time. Start throwing pucks to the net. Throw everything to the net. Get people there. guys, there's this coverage sometimes on the power play and the penalty kill. We see what they like to do. Those are all the little things that you do when you go into the playoffs, and you go back and you look at a lot of the games, and you look at the scores, and you look at how did they give up that lead? Why did they give that lead up? And then again, the power play. I mean, the power play is going to be huge for Dallas, obviously. But we've seen some opportunities that other teams have had against their power play at times too, that I think overall, I think they're pretty good. I mean, that just happens in this league now too. But to me is when you have a lead, I mean, it's one thing to be able to come back in games. You're down by 2-3 goals into the third period, and they tie it up and they find a way to win. And then you go, you know what? Be careful because this team's never out of it. Well, this is a little bit of the other one. There's still a little light at the end of the tunnel for us.
So I want to ask you, Sam,
Yep.
because you wrote about this a little bit, talking about the physicality.
Yep.
They were not happy with the last St. Louis game on the road at Enterprise Center.
Out hit like 43-16 or something like that.
Yeah, it was terrible. Then they play Vegas, and they out hit them.
Yep.
Now, they gave up the third period, but they ended up finding a way to win in overtime. Then they play a much better game in Utah. Lower scoring, but they did that one. Then they had two pretty physical, in a good way, wins, granted overtime and late goal against St. Louis.
Yep.
It wasn't cruising in the third period, but did you see enough? Gully said after a couple of games, I think it was before the St. Louis game, yeah, we're starting to show it, but is this a turning a corner, or is this just a blip?
And that's the
Do you think it's a blip?
I don't, to be honest, because I heard the same message from every player. Maverick Bourque said it. Matt Duchene said it. Mikko Rantanen said it. The Miro Heiskanen talked about it. Gulutzan's not just the one that's saying the same message. It's the players going in the room as well. So I think seeing the way they shifted that, Maverick Bourque was talking about it, I forget which game, after one of the games, and he said, we really didn't like the details of our game, and we talked about it and we harped on it, and they flipped that switch. And I think the reason I'm excited and the reason I wrote this article is because the things they're doing translate into the playoffs. If they were coming out and their power play was, the beginning of the season is a great example. Their power play was unbeatable. Their shooting percentage was ridiculous. They're scoring 4 goals a night. That to me is not what wins you playoff games. What wins you playoff games,
It's unsustainable.
Exactly. What wins you those playoff games is the game against Utah, where they're in it. There's not the huge breakdowns. They're in the battle. They're doing, the hits is one thing, but the getting in the way of players, making players go around you, defending a little, as Luds talks about, in front of the net so that they can't just get there and push you into your own crease. And the other end of it, doing the exact opposite to them. Those little details is how you wear down a team in the playoffs. It's what Dallas lacked in the last few playoffs that really showed in the Western Conference Final, where they were just, 1, gassed, and 2, absolutely bullied by the Edmonton Oilers and Vegas Golden Knights. If you can play that way, that's how you flip the script. That's how you get to Game 6 and Game 7 against whoever it might be, Minnesota, Colorado, and you look like the fresher team because you're imposing your will. They're not going to be the Florida Panthers. Gulutzan doesn't want them to be the Florida Panthers. But if you can impose your will a little more and be a little harder to play against, you give yourself that next level that I think this team's been missing for the last 3 seasons.
Luds,
I'd have no problem wanting them to be the Florida Panthers.
Go for it.
If you look, though, Luds, 57 games down to get to 82, is that enough time? You said you agree that there is progress. Is there enough games left for them to progress to where you want them to be and where they want to be?
See, this isn't on the coaches. It's on the players. The players have to make the decision as a group to say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get better at that. We're up by 2 goals with 12 minutes to go in the second period. We don't really have to try to create something out of a 2-on-2 or 3-on-3. Let's just make sure that we have numbers going the other way. We got what we do and what we play when we're together, going through the neutral zone into our own zone. We can suffocate people. Let's not open up holes. So can they do it? Yeah, but I think there has to be a buy-in from all the players. It's because again, I believe that the coaches are, they're talking the right talk, and I do think that you have to get your best players on that. This isn't going to be when your 5th defenseman and Blackwell and Steele are calling out the guys and saying, hey, we got to play better on our own end. We have to have better coverage in here. It's when your top players are holding the rest of the group accountable to playing a certain way.
And Mikko Rantanen does exactly that, which is why I think he's so important to this team, other than just his skill.
I think Mikko here for a full year and impacting and sort of making impressions on all the other guys on the roster is only going to benefit this team in the long run.
Yep. And I think one last time I'm going to bring it up because I just loved it so much. Justin Ritzkovian on the show talked about their Zoom call when he was in the USHL with Rod Brindamore.
Face-offs.
Rod Brindamore said, if you go in with 100% effort and you really bear down, you're going to win 50% of those draws or more. It's just the right attitude. That has rubbed off, not that exact thing, but that is how I feel about this Dallas Stars team, the way they've played, is that they're buying into that a little bit more, where if we just bear down in every little bit of these areas, we're going to come out on top in a lot of these battles, and we're going to come out on top in these games. That's how true hockey teams play, and I just haven't seen it from Dallas in previous seasons. I'm seeing it more over this last stretch.
See, Mikko, and we know that he appears to be the guy that's driving the bus, right? So, but it can't just be Mikko preaching that. Yep. I mean, it has to be Duchesne, it has to be Wyatt, it has to be Hintz, it has to be Robo. All your top-end skilled guys have to preach the other side of the game too, because we know that's what they do. But they have to be accountable at the other end, because then all of a sudden the rest of us in the room, we're like, hey, they're doing it too. Like, we feel like we're not losing and we're fighting a losing battle trying to play a certain way and shut down things in here. But then we got a guy that comes back to how many times have I had to talk about this year when guys are coming back checking and they get into the neutral zone and their feet are completely stopped by the time they get to their own blue line. And it leads to a quality chance or a goal by 8 to 12 inches of a stick length. And all they had to do is keep on skating. Those are the little tiny details that turn you into that team. Because I believe Rantanen won a Stanley Cup with a really good team, right? And really, really superstar players on there. He wants to show that that's not the only cup that he's going to win. He wants to do it with another team, and he's going to be a bigger part of this cup than he was of the other cup. And I do think that, and so I do put a lot of that on Rantanen. That don't be chirping at the third and fourth line guys. Talk to the superstar. Talk to the top guys. That when you see them coming back and stopping their feet in their own, neutral zone, things that I talked about, hold them accountable. And then Wyatt starts chirping at Hintz, and Hintz starts chirping at Robo. Then all of a sudden now you got 22 guys driving the bus.
So we're out of time. I've got to wrap this up. But when we were arguing earlier on a show of trade targets and Lud's saying, is it enough? Is it worth it? Can they really, if they get one or two pieces, become a Stanley Cup contender? This conversation dawns on me. No. Here's why. Because it's not just the trade deadline. I'll try to say this out. The trade deadline, if they add, will help them. But what Luds is talking about is the other key ingredient. If they can bolster their roster, but then also as a group turn that corner,
yep,
now you've got something.
Agreed.
They're not going to they don't need more superstars. They need complementary guys that can complement the team concept and everything else that they do. Whatever Gully's preaching and Elaine, all those guys, whatever they're preaching, you need those guys to sell it.
There you go, Blake. Come home.
I was just about to say the same thing.
All right. That'll do it for today. For Craig Ludwig, Sam Nestler, producer Ryan Viders, I'm Owen Newkirk. No Luds tomorrow, but Sean will be here. First games of the Olympics will be underway. Finland and Sweden, both in action. Finland plays Slovakia. Sweden plays Italy. We'll be here to talk about all of that. Luds will be back on Thursday, and the damn Discord channel will be as well here on DLLS.
Oh, my God.
His blonde hair has flow, his shin pads were wide. Even Vinnie Paul would say that he's a swell guy. Lutz, 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 we love our Lutz. 2 cups, his name.
We all silly like the mayor.